When I was 13, the Beastie Boys had a radio hit that I liked. Fight for your right to party. I want to know, seriously, is there a universal human right to party? When society decides to celebrate, who's getting an invite? And who's being excluded? Mardi Gras is the definition of an open access party. It's not one parade on one day. Mardi Gras is a month-long celebration. We have 68 parades called krewes, and each one has its own theme, its own history, its own traditions. Thousands are present, all ages, all backgrounds, all partying more or less together. The beads are a real thing. The flashing, not so much. So here's my friend Jet celebrating Mardi Gras. Now, Jet is marching for the first time with the intergalactic crew of Chewbacca's. Right on. A sci-fi themed parade with 800 costumed marchers. Now, members of this crew make their own costumes, their own floats, their own props, so it's all very arty, very DIY, irreverent. It's very, very funky. Now, as you can see, Jet enjoys drumming. He also composes electronic music. He likes animation. He enjoys sketching, reading, and writing. He's academically advanced. He's artistically gifted. He's creative, eloquent, and very, very funny. Jet also jumps up and waves his hands in an unusual way when he gets excited. He sometimes speaks way too loudly. A routine annoyance can make him explode with frustration, and he strongly dislikes most flavors and textures, so he subsists on soy nut butter crackers, waffles, and Pop-Tarts. He has difficulty connecting socially with many peers. As you may have guessed, Jet has autism. Now, autism is essentially a different way the brain can be wired. People with autism literally experience the world differently through their senses. So everyday sensations like the texture of carpet or the sound of a doorbell can be very distracting or even painful to them. People with autism tend to have difficulty with communication, language, and with social interactions, especially conversation and eye contact. And people with autism tend to think and express themselves differently. But what does that look like? Let's look at the question a little differently. I'd like you each to reach into the bags you were given and pull out the yellow paper. Your paper has a hypothetical profile of a person with autism. Take a moment now and read yours to yourself. Now read your neighbor's paper. Are they very different? Similar? Let's compare with a show of hands. How many of your hypothetical kids talk a lot? How many talk very little? How many are entirely nonverbal? How many have social anxiety or limited social circles? How many are gregarious or even show-offs? How many have sensory issues? How many have obsessive interests? So as you can see, we have a great variety here, right? Autism is not a binary like this, where you have autistic, non-autistic. It's not even a spectrum like this, where you have mild autism grading into extreme autism. You know, autism is characterized by a variety of different qualities, each existing independently of one another. It's characterized by a great hypersensitivity here, a great lack of sensitivity there, a great skill here, a great deficit there. And each of these qualities can exist in any degree and in any combination. So the autistic spectrum looks more like this. There's no one profile for autism. So how do you accommodate autism? For the answer, let's go back to Jet. Here's Jet on the 3rd hour of the parade. Look at him go, right? He has just marched 3 miles. That drum is not light. And the people in the crowd, they are waving lightsabers, they're yelling, they're smoking, they're going wild. We know about Jet's sensitivities. How is Jet keeping it together? How are autism and party coexisting here? Well, the simple answer is with practice, 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 and accommodation. My nonprofit, NOLArts Learning Center, spent 9 weeks preparing a group of teens with autism for this event. Now, most of that time was spent doing what any Chewbacca's crew member does, which is creating costumes, props, and instruments. But during that time, we were also preparing the group for what to expect on parade night and how to behave. We spent a lot of time building up a social rapport, team building, and preparing them for the parade day expectations using videos, role plays, and on-site dress rehearsals. And every creative task, like sewing and painting, was broken down into steps, little bite-sized pieces, and each piece was presented in different ways for our different learning styles and abilities, visually, verbally, hands-on. And on parade night, we got some accommodations from the parade organizers, including our own entourage of trained volunteers acting as escorts. And we provided some sensory modifications as well, the noise-canceling headphones and soft, flexible drum straps to make it more comfortable. Now, we chose Chewbacca as our entry point because of the atmosphere of acceptance and the celebration of eccentricity. To quote another song, this one in New Orleans brass standard, here you get to do what you wanna. But keep in mind, these practices and principles are not limited to Chewbacca or even to Mardi Gras. These things can and should be done for all sorts of public events, for street fairs, religious celebrations, concerts, and galleries. So why does all this matter, right? What's the impact? Well, it matters because people with autism are members of the community, and they need to participate in public life and culture. Parents, family members need to prepare them to do this. Parade organizers and culture makers need to take their needs into consideration and meet reasonable accommodation requests. What about you? The audience members, the other people at the concert and the show. What do you need to do? You need to provide the acceptance. This person at the gallery needs to breastfeed? Okay. This person at the show needs to bring a guide dog? Okay. This person needs to jump up and wave their hands? Okay. No problem. Your acceptance is the party invitation. Everyone deserves a seat at the table, and when it's time to celebrate, everyone deserves to swing from the chandelier. Thank you.